Hello there YouTube, my name is Chuggy, and as promised here is the full-length 19-minute gameplay where I get my first proper Battlefield moment from Battlefield 3. This is a Conquest match on Canals, I forget the full name, but today I'm going to be giving my sort of review of the full game, as well as hopefully in the second half of the gameplay give you a few tips on how to fly helicopters in the game, such as the Z11W, as you are currently seeing I'm a passenger in. One thing I would like to ask just off the bat is please do leave a comment if you like this format. Obviously it's quite a long video, and it does take a little bit more time to put together, but if you like this long length commentary and video, say so, and I'll produce some more. So yeah, any feedback you have, leave a comment, rating, thumbs up, thumbs down, etc. It'd be much appreciated. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on with this review. And well, look at that, I'm a poet and I didn't know it. Wonderful. Anyway, so yes, the question, which is on most sort of first-person gamers' lips at the moment: what is the better game? Is it going to be Battlefield or is it going to be Call of Duty? With their respective outings, obviously Battlefield 3 and Modern Warfare 3. Well, that is quite the tricky question, and obviously the proof is in the eating. Playing, whatever. And obviously Battlefield 3 has been out 10 or so days now. How does it compare to anything else currently out there? Good question. And one thing I will say off the bat regarding this review is I am not going to directly sort of compare, if you will, Call of Duty to Battlefield at any point, deliberately anyway. To be honest, as far as I see the two games, they're completely different styles, play styles required are different, so it'd be unfair to both to try and compare them, because, there are different audiences, it's different styles. It's the old apple and orange, Ferrari, Fiat argument, similar but not the same. So I'm just going to talk about Battlefield 3 on its own, as a game. So obviously, it's got a heck of a job to try and catch up and perhaps even pass Call of Duty. It's been the market leader of first-person shooters for a while now. Obviously, all the success, if we all kicked off with Call of Duty 4 a long time ago, good 5 odd years, so years now. Anyway, Call of Duty, it's been the juggernaut, right? And anyone has played Call of Duty in terms of first-person shooters, and games companies have started to take up and notice that, and games have started to come out as of late which have tried to imitate the Call of Duty style, as it were. For example, Homefront. Some parts it worked, some parts it didn't. However, because most games seem to go, well, Call of Duty seems to be the way to do it, most first-person shooters these days have tended to sort of take the angle of, well, you've played it once, you've kind of played it, you've played them all. And that's kind of dull, if you buy a game, you kind of want like a new experience. And that's why I was so pleasantly surprised by Battlefield 3 playing the multiplayer beta, because it did. It felt fresh, it felt new, it felt like it was going to set a new standard, it really did. So yeah, I was really happy the way it played. Yeah, there were some Call of Duty influences, which the sort of properly hardcore Battlefield players didn't particularly like, but I, on the whole, didn't mind them at all. So it got me thinking, well, what could cause Battlefield to be so different? Personally, I think a lot of this is because of the engine technology that Battlefield 3 is built on, that being Frostbite 2. And to briefly cover it, it sort of ups the ante, if you will, from Frostbite 1. Improved destruction, lighting, sound. In fact, two things I'll mention off the bat. Graphically and in terms of the audio, I don't think anything could really beat this. I mean, it's beautiful looking. I mean, bear in mind, I am playing on a PS3 here. It isn't going to look as good as a console or, Ultra, whatever else, but this is 6-year-old hardware. It still looks incredibly good, if not as good as stuff being released, on newish hardware on PC. It looks great. The audio, especially, is fantastic. I mean, obviously, I have the benefit of playing with some surround sound headphones, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. From explosions like that sort of oil tanker, whatever, going off to ricochets of bullets going around. It all sounds real. You can sort of place it in a 3D environment. Immerses you. There we go. Immerses you brilliantly. So graphics and audio is top notch. Yeah, here's a confidence boost. Yeah, I'm going to show you how to fly helicopters as I fly pole. The tell you what I'll do. So yeah, in terms of the graphics and the audio, really top stuff. And obviously you've got a good foundation there. Well, what have they done with that foundation? What have they built on top? Well, obviously you've got the three chunks of the game. You've got your single player, you've got your co-op, and you've got your multiplayer. The single player is very, very good. Actually, I'll precurse this. One thing I'll say is I've played most Battlefield games, as I have said, and this is by far and away the most difficult Battlefield game I have ever played. The sort of learning curve, the initial getting into it, is incredibly steep. Mainly because, well, not only is the AI pretty damn sharp, it will punish you if you do something stupid. Well, the single player taught me that one. But, like, for example, the multiplayer and co-op, you've got to, unlock everything, work from the start for everything, from weapons to vehicles. And so initially getting into using a weapon or a vehicle can be incredibly difficult. I mean, for example, the jets. If you don't have the flares, the infrared flares to scramble, get rid of enemy anti-air missiles, you're in trouble. You'll just be shot down pretty much instantly. So getting the initial points to get into it is quite tricky. But once you have them, it sort of rewards you, gives you confidence, which, it seems like sort of you've invested time to do this, and it's starting to reward you, which is nice. In most games sort of give you the basics for free and you've got to run with it. This, you have to earn the basics, and when you've earned it, you start to use it, work it, and you start to, score points, kill players, whatever it may be. The satisfaction, just personally, I found is, top notch, better than anything else. Anyway, slight tangent. So yeah, the single player and the co-op, very tricky. It definitely will punish you. The AI is sharp, it's hot, and to be honest, it hasn't gone sort of for the stereotypical sort of massive set piece sort of style of story. It's more based on like a soldier's sort of view of the world. If anything, I'd try and sort of see it as a mix between Call of Duty in sense of scale and things going on, and also Medal of Honor in terms of soldier's story, you're on your own, etc. The story is decent. There are a few plot holes. I mean, for example, no spoilers, like you never do really find out why the main bad guy is trying to kill everyone. But other than that, it's a good story. The one thing I'd say about it is it's a bit trigger-based, as many things are these days, as you can physically tell. I bet to this point all the enemies stop. Hooray! So that can detract a bit, but to be honest, it's nothing too serious. Co-op is much the same. It's all the fun of the sort of Battlefield single player, but with a buddy. And again, the AI is very relentless, not merciful at all. It will tear you a new one if you give it half an inch of space. So yeah, it's not an easy experience, but it's a very rewarding one once you get into it. And obviously, the co-op stuff unlocks weapons for what I'd say is probably the main meat of the sandwich of Battlefield 3, which is of course the multiplayer. So, obviously, Battlefield is a multiplayer franchise. It's how it started out, and the multiplayer is where you'll be spending most of your time. I would say probably of the 30 or so hours I've played the game, I've probably spent about 20 or so just in the multiplayer. That's not saying that the single player is weak at all compared to it, not at all. And actually, one thing I forgot to mention is this Battlefield 3, by far and away, has the best sort of single player experience of any Battlefield game to date, so kudos, guys, you're making improvements there. But the Battlefield franchise is built on multiplayer, always has been, always will be. And the multiplayer is frankly rock solid, quality Battlefield. I remember I mentioned again in my initial impressions of the beta that you could tell that this was a Battlefield game, sort of just in the way it was, but it felt fresh, it felt new. It was like you could see the family history, and that's continued. Again, I think it's Frostbite 2 doing this. It's just the way it handles itself, the way it plays. It's classic Battlefield, but modern day, as it were. I don't know. I can't find a superlative to describe it really. It's a joy to play. It really is. The map design, all of the maps are top notch. They all have flanking routes. They all have quality sort of features to them. Be it attacking, for example, on this map from an aircraft carrier as the Americans, or obviously the base jump on Davahan Peak. Can't say that word either. It's all the maps have got beautiful qualities to them, and the weapons as well. are all varied and fantastic. It's balanced as well. That's the best thing. There's no single overpowered weapon. And because this is sort of a squad-based, role-based game, you can counter everything. It's like rock, paper, scissors. You just have to be adaptable enough to be able to fight, whatever else the enemy's throwing at you. And well, as I mentioned in my sort of how to hit the ground running guide, as it were, being adaptable is one of those, 5 or so, I think, pillars of how to be a good Battlefield player. The second that you can read the environment, sort of see where an enemy weakness is and exploit it, that's the second you're going to start turning a game around. And certainly, Battlefield 3, that's there. It's fantastic. Be it, picking up an engineer kit to destroy an enemy tank which has just appeared, or using C4 to take down a building, to take out a load of attackers. It's all there, and it's Battlefield goodness. And to be honest, the only bad things I could say about the multiplayer experience in general have actually been fixed. I recorded this commentary at the same time I produced the little teaser for this sort of video, and I had a couple of complaints, mainly regarding lag. It was very laggy to start, and there were some daft bugs. Like the one which really annoyed me personally was that if you ever squadded up with a group of your buddies, often you'd be split up across 2 teams in the server or different squads. So it was like, oh great, so we've got we're in a game, but we're not on the same teams. We've got to sort ourselves out. Rest. Both of those have been fixed in the time it's taken. Well, in the time between me recording this commentary initially and now. It's incredible how quickly EA DICE have been rolling out fixes. It's astounding. Genuinely is, because if a problem has been reported, it's probably fixed within 5 days. For example, the last few days on the trot, there have been server-side fixes for lag, for squads problems, etc. To make the game better. It's showing EA DICE are genuinely dedicated. They want this game to do well, and well, I am very appreciative of that, and I want to say thank you to them for it. Please keep it up. So yeah, the support is frankly fantastic, and obviously they are showing off what will be coming soon. Obviously, the first piece of sort of DLC is back to Karkan, so a couple of classic maps from Battlefield 2, and they just released sort of the sort of debut trailer, I don't know what you would want to call it, of Back to Karkan, and it looks glorious. It really does. You can sort of, again, see that it's these Battlefield 2 maps, but in sort of a Battlefield 3 skin. So personally, I'm really looking forward to that DLC, not only for new maps, old sort of friend maps even, but really new weapons as well. I mean, obviously, I'm a fairly patriotic person, and to see that both the L96 and the L85A2, being sort of the standard sniper and assault rifles for the British Army, are in the game, makes me a very happy boy. Anyway, so the multiplayer I'm incredibly impressed with, and the long and short of it is this: if you haven't got Battlefield 3 already, please go and get it. Obviously, there are a lot of games coming out right now. For example, Modern Warfare 3 and Skyrim are due out this next week. And at $60 odd, 40 odd quid a pop, it ain't cheap. But this is one of those games which you have to experience. It's a game changer. It really is in my eyes. Much like Call of Duty 4, and again I said this before in my beta impressions, much like Call of Duty 4 sort of showed the FPS world what's expected of the next generation, I think Battlefield 3 is going to do the same. Frostbite 2 itself is billed as next generation, sort of, a next generation engine on current generation platforms, as we see a wannabe flying man. And it genuinely, the whole package feels like that. It's one of those things which you just have to experience, and it is difficult to get into, and it is going to be very frustrating initially, but I promise you this: if you stick with it, it will reward you immensely. And as you're about to see, when it rewards you, you feel like a badass. And this is one of these Battlefield moments which you hear people talk about, but you don't tend to see very often. So let's just look at this. I mean, 5 odd people on a roof, plus a helicopter. The odds of me, surviving this are pretty slim, to be honest. There are RPGs flying at me. There are more of them. There's a little bird taking off at this point. A lot going on. How did I achieve all this? Well, this would be a good time to start talking about how to fly a helicopter, to be honest. I mean, almost wrapping up the game, or will be shortly. So the thing with the helicopters and the jets is that they are difficult to fly. To be honest, I thought the handling mechanics in Bad Company 2 were too easy. You could sort of do stuff with a helicopter with very little skill. It was pick up, fly, did a circle strafing, continue. Whereas in previous Battlefield games it had been very difficult, so they sort of went from one extreme to the other. I think Battlefield 3 they've got it just right. Anyone can jump in and sort of get from A to B, but to carry out some of the more advanced stuff, circle strafing, managing enemy aircraft, the rest, takes practice. It's sort of, again, this thing of you need to practice it to become efficient at it, and obviously that rewards you when you get it right. Situations like that are exactly those scenarios. So how do you get good? Well, the first thing I'd say is change your control. Certainly on the console, we have sort of the option to change from whatever the default is to a setting called Legacy, and I have for both the jets and the helicopters Legacy sticks. And basically that maps everything apart from the roll, the tilt, I don't know, to the right stick. That means that it's much more similar to Bad Company 2 in terms of the flying mechanic. It's just that you have the throttle and the brake, I don't know, you're braking a helicopter, you got the throttle and the brake on R2 and L2 on PS3 anyway. And literally it's just a job of managing very carefully your inputs to the sticks and to the throttle and the brake. Much like when you're driving a car without traction control in like a racing game, you've just got to sort of be very sort of cautious, I'd say, when you initially apply your input to the controller. So, be it circle strafing, just knock it a little bit, move the stick slightly, don't, yank it from one direction to the other, because that will definitely put you head first into the dirt, into the deck. Be gentle, see what happens. If you pull the stick one way and the helicopter seems to respond all right, seems to work, great. Apply a little more, see what it happens. Progressively add and remove, input on the stick. Same goes for the throttle. I'm not sure if you can really hear, but you can almost hear me sort of repeatedly pressing and depressing the throttle to go up and down and sort of manage my height. It's literally all about sort of progressive input. And once you kind of get used to the idea of progressive input, you can start to fly pretty competently. And you can start to, get on with some of the more advanced techniques, such as circle strafing around the target. Okay, so that's all well and good. You've got the basics down. Well, how do you actually engage stuff? How do you do, attack stuff? Well, one thing I've realised, I'm not sure if it's well known, it probably is, it's just I'm stating the obvious, but you have two crosshairs, right, in a helicopter. So you have like your normal middle crosshair, then you've got a secondary set. And you can see that when I'm shooting, I'm using the primary crosshair to aim. The thing is, obviously, if you're in the air, gravity will have an effect, right? So the second set of crosshairs come into play. They kind of show you where the rounds will go, based on like your angle, your roll. So as you just saw me take down that enemy helicopter, I kind of aimed or lined up the shot between both sets of crosshairs. So that meant that the rounds would be roughly going in that area, and as a result, you're able to take down the aircraft. But certainly initially, when you don't have much unlocked, use those, the chain guns, use these two crosshairs to help line up the shots. And by doing that, obviously, you'll start to get kills, and once you start to get the kills and the assists, whatever else, you'll start to unlock stuff like the flares, which obviously you need to protect yourself from AA threats, or the heat seeker missiles to take down AA threats and the rest. And once you have that, you can start to work moving forward, unlocking more bits and pieces for your helicopter, tank, whatever else it may be, and then you can start to become a force to be reckoned with. Then you can start to be rewarded. So that's the gameplay. I hope you found this advice useful. I hope you found the review interesting, and please leave a comment, agree, disagree, and the rest. So this has been Chuggy. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you want to see some more, and I'll see you out on the battlefield.